Billy Crystal finally exposes the truth about Don Rickles at the age of 77. William Edward Crystal was born in New York City on March 14, 1948. Billy Crystal was up in a home full of music and entertainment. Jack Crystal, his father, was a jazz promoter and record entrepreneur who worked with famous musicians including Billie Holiday and Louis Armstrong. Billy got a front row seat to the rhythms, stresses, and thrills of show business when he was young, since he was around performers and their lives. Billy's father died suddenly when he was just 15 years old, which had a huge impact on his emotional life and art later on. A lot of Crystal's humor, kindness, and sensitivity come from this early loss and from his ability to turn grief into connection through laughing. Crystal went to New York University and studied directing and film at the Tisch School of the Arts. One of his students was a young Martin Scorsese, which shows how firmly Crystal's roots lie in the creative core of American cinema. He left college for a short time to look for acting jobs, but he later went back to finish his degree. This was an early indicator of the determination and seriousness that would guide his long career. He became famous in the late 1970s when he played Jody Dallas on the hit TV show Soap. Jody Dallas was one of the first openly gay characters on American network TV. Crystal contributed warmth, intelligence, and comedy to the part at a period when such depiction was unusual and generally done with caricatures or contempt. His performance was groundbreaking and brave, changing how people saw LGBTQ people and paving the way for more nuanced representation of LGBTQ people in mainstream media. This job is still a big deal in television history, even after many years. During the 1980s and 1990s, Billy Crystal went from being a TV star to a movie star without any problems. He became one of Hollywood's most bankable and loved leading males. He was very versatile and did well in humor, romance, satire, and drama. Movies like When Harry Met Sally, 1989, made him a romantic comedy icon. His portrayal as Harry Burns, a neurotic, opinionated, vulnerable, and genuinely human character, caught the intricacies of modern relationships and is still one of the most quoted performances in film history. Crystal's relationship with Me Ryan and his ability to be both cynical and honest gave the movie a timeless charm that still works for moviegoers. He also showed off his comedic and dramatic skills in movies like City Slickers, 1991, for which he won an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor as a producer and was praised as an actor. In Mr. Saturday Night 2, a deeply personal project he also directed and analyzed in 1999, he held his own against Robert De Niro, proving that intelligence and subtlety could beat sheer bravado. His voice work as Mike Wazowski in Pixar's Monsters, Inc. franchise made him famous with a new generation, proving that he is an entertainer for all ages. In 2001, Crystal changed his image for a new generation of fans by giving his unmistakable voice, perfect timing, and endless charisma to the adorable green Cyclops Mike Wazowski in Pixar's groundbreaking animated Smash Monsters Incorporated. What started off as a vocal role swiftly turned into one of the most famous performances in modern animation. Crystal turned Mike Wazowski into a pop culture sensation with his quick wit, emotional warmth, and excellent comic timing. He helped center a movie that would go on to become a classic enjoyed by both kids and adults. Crystal didn't stop working after that success. He kept looking for new and interesting projects to work on. In 2018, he returned to live-action storytelling with an independent drama that showed a more contemplative side of his performance. The movie let him move away from broad comedy and into vulnerability and emotional delicacy, showing people how versatile and deep he is as an actor. He then released Standing Up, Falling Down on April 25, 2019. In this movie, he gave a quietly strong performance that mixed humor, regret, and hard-earned knowledge. People complimented the portrayal for being delicate and real, which showed that Crystal can mix comedy with real human feeling. His deep bond with the monsters in the current universe also stayed strong. Crystal played Mike Wazowski again in the animated online TV show Monsters at Work. This show continues the story in the familiar but always changing environment of Monstropolis. The series was supposed to be out in 2020 and promised to grow the franchise while bringing back the character who had become known for Crystal's voice and sense of humor. Crystal showed not only that he could continue in the entertainment business for a long time, but also that he could change with the times by taking on new formats, audiences, and creative challenges while still being faithful to the talent that made him famous in the first place. Billy Crystal is not just a great actor, but also a great writer, director, producer, and author. His publications, which range from memoirs to funny essays about getting older, family, and creativity, show that he is a deep, thinking person behind the jokes. Crystal is good at mixing funny and deep emotional truths in his work, like 700 Sundays, which is based on the amount of Sundays he spent with his father. 700 Sundays on Stage became a Broadway hit that critics loved. It won him a Tony Award and is one of the most personal and poignant one-man shows ever made. Billy Crystal's job as the host of the Academy Awards may have been the most important thing that shaped his public image. He became the gold standard for the role after hosting the Oscars 9 times. Easygoing, ready, appreciative of the institution, and not afraid to make fun of it in a nice way. His opening monologues, musical pieces, and quick improvisation talents converted what could have been a formal ceremony into a real celebration of movies. Billy Crystal is the voice and face of the Oscars for a lot of people during their favorite time. Billy Crystal married his high school sweetheart, Janice Goldfinger, on June 4, 1970. This was the start of one of the longest-lasting and most quietly inspiring love stories in Hollywood. When celebrity marriages tended to collapse quickly, theirs became a strong example of loyalty, friendship, and real love. Crystal has talked about how much his parents meant to him with a lot of emotion. He remembers how happy they always seemed to be together. A simple but deep example that changed how he thought about marriage. That way of showing respect and happiness would shape his life with Janice for more than 50 years. Billy and Janice formed not simply a marriage, but also a close-knit family that was far away from the scandals of Hollywood. They had 2 daughters, Jennifer and Lindsay, and they encouraged them to follow their own creative paths. Jennifer is doing well as an actress, while Lindsay is making a name for herself as a producer behind the scenes. As the years went by, their family extended to include grandkids, bringing another generation to a home that had always been known for its warmth, devotion, and shared beliefs. The Crystals lived in the Pacific Palisades district of Los Angeles for many years. This was a locale that matched their desire for stability and normalcy, even though Billy Crystal was quite famous. The Palisades fire in January 2025 damaged their home, which shook their feeling of permanence. Still, their narrative was one of strength even after all that loss. A couple who had been through a lot of changes in their lives together, relying on the same love and partnership they had since they were teenagers. Billy and Janice Crystal's marriage is a rare Hollywood romance that is not based on drama but on strength. At 77, Billy Crystal is at a point in his life where nostalgia, gratitude, and honesty join together to make something more than just humor. Crystal has often talked about the legends who shaped him with fondness over the years he spent in show industry. But his relationship with Don Rickles was one of the most complicated, important, and misunderstood of all. People have known Rickles for a long time as the ruthless trader of venom. He was famous for his harsh remarks and reckless irreverence. But Crystal says that public image hardly touched the surface. People thought Don was mean and just like tearing people apart, Crystal once said. But that wasn't the case. Don Rickles was one of the most kind, devoted, and protective people I've ever met. Rickles wasn't just a comic legend for Crystal. He was a mentor, a test, and finally a buddy who showed him how to get by and do well in a tough field. As a young comedian still trying to find his way, Crystal first met Rickles. Rickles was already able to control rooms with ease, making fun of celebrities, mobsters, and presidents without fear. Crystal said, "I was scared the first time Don came after me. I thought, oh my God, he hates me. But then I understood that you were in trouble if he didn't pay attention to you." Rickles thought that making fun of someone was a way to include them, a warped but real expression of appreciation. Over time, Crystal learned that Rickles' remarks were never random. He said, "Don studied you. He understood what you were afraid of, but he also knew what you were good at. He'd hit you hard, but not where it would really hurt." Rickles was different from other comedians who thought that being mean was funny because he was brutally honest and had an unsaid sense of care. Rickles was very different from the person he played on stage. Crystal remembers times when Rickles wasn't in the spotlight that showed his kinder side. After a negative review or a rough night, he'd contact me and say, "Kid, forget about them. You did a terrific job." That meant a lot coming from him. Rickles was very loyal to people he considered family and gave them a lot of praise in private. Their friendship grew stronger as they got older. Crystal saw Rickles suffer with the physical problems that come with becoming older. This was very hard for the man who used to be the center of attention in every room he entered. Crystal said it broke her heart to see Don slow down. He needed comedy to live. You could see the ache when that started to go away. But even then, Rickles' spirit never totally faded. He would still stare at me and say something unpleasant, and I would think, there you are. That's Don. Crystal felt the loss of Rickles in 2017 as both personal and historic. We didn't just lose a comedian, he stated in a low voice. We lost a person who was one of a kind. Crystal has since talked about how Rickles affected him as a person and as a performer. He told me that comedy is the truth, and that's what Don taught me. It has to originate from something real, even if it's loud and annoying. Crystal, who is now 77, no longer feels the need to soften the truth for the public. He remarked that Don Rickles loved people. He loved them so passionately that he was sure they would still be standing after the laughter ended, even if he tore them apart. Crystal thought that Rickles' best gift was that he could use humor as a bridge instead of a weapon. Crystal thinks that their connection was one of the best things that ever happened to him. He said, I miss him every day. And every time I am on stage, I hear a voice in my head telling me to make it count, kid. That's Don. That will always be Don. In 2023, Crystal got a rare and well-deserved award when he won the Kennedy Center Honors, a celebration for artists whose work has had a big impact on American culture. The night was more like a love letter than a wedding. Rob Reiner, Meg Ryan, Whoopi Goldberg, Robert De Niro, Jay Leno, and Bob Costas all took the stage to pay tribute to a career that has brought laughter, warmth, and humanity to generations of audiences. They shared personal stories that mixed admiration with affection, remembering not only Crystal's brilliance as a performer but also his generosity, intelligence, and unwavering professionalism behind the scenes. One of the best parts of the night was when Lin-Manuel Miranda and Mark Shaman made a beautiful musical homage based on Crystal's famous Oscar medley set to the classic songs Too Marvelous for Words. You had to be connected to When Harry Met Sally and My Favorite Things from The Sound of Music forever. The show was a celebration of Crystal's unique ability to easily connect comedy, music, and storytelling. The medley was both nostalgic and exciting, reminding people of how Crystal made the Academy Awards a must-see event and changed the way we think about hosts. The party didn't stop there. Later, Crystal went to the 97th Academy Awards. He wasn't hosting the Oscars this time, instead, he was there as a symbol of continuity and cinematic history. He was the presenter for Best Picture, and he shared the occasion with me, Ryan, his co-star from When Harry Met Sally. Their reunion brought back memories of one of the best romantic comedies of all time. They were both examples of Hollywood wizardry from decades before. Crystal's legacy lives on and continues to touch, entertain, and inspire people today.